Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video today on F1 2018, the game, and some brand new screenshots that give some really good insight into how the game is looking for this year upcoming. Of course, we got a lot of info from E3 2018. I got my hands on a little talk with Lee Mather, but that was all information. No gameplay, no screenshots from that hands-on, and so all the information I conveyed about interviews, the new systems and whatnot, and just the new art direction, the way the game is looking, wasn't able to be presented, and also just the way the game looks is being quite limited from what they've shown so far from trailers, etc. And also things like just looking at the new tracks like Hockenheim coming back has not been viewed. But now with screenshots, we're able to see that. So that's what we're going to do today. But if you have missed any of those videos, I'll put annotation in the top right and also links in the description to all those videos. So if you've missed any of the E3 2018 info on F1 2018, then be sure to go check those out. You can learn about how interviews are back in F1 2018, the new contract system that really overhauls the entire process of how you're going to tackle the career mode in terms of moving teams, and also the revamped R&D, which is a real game changer in my opinion. So be sure to go check those videos out if you have not and you have no idea about any of that info for the upcoming game. Really quite juicy stuff, but obviously because it was just info, it maybe went under the radar a little bit because a lot of people, really what catches their attention is visuals, unfortunately, but really that info is quite useful. But we're going to start off here then with a screenshot of the interview kind of scenario, if it will. We've got Claire, which is the new character to the game, which is going to be the interviewer character you're going to see throughout your career mode on F1 2018, and she's going to be one that asks you time-pressured questions. So you'll see a little dial come up here. Imagine the animation continues on from this static screenshot. You're going to see like a dial come up that's going to have a time icon of about 20 seconds perhaps, and it's going to run out. Obviously, there's going to be a few options that you can choose from, and it's going to be in different settings, different points of the race weekend. Obviously, here we're in a paddock setting. You can see the Sauber, Alfa Romeo kind of team motor house unit, as it were, and some engineers, some team personnel walking around in the background there. And then in the foreground, you've got Claire and the cameraman asking the kind of questions. Really nice detailing, actually, how they've done that. You've got like the little paddock pass thing. You've also got what looks to be a custom logo of the kind of, I don't know, interview team, I guess it were, because obviously it probably costs quite a lot of money to license a team like Sky or BBC or Channel 4 F1 in the case of all the British stuff. And then obviously kind of more international ones like RTL, I guess, and kind of other random ones that I won't know of, that some of you guys might know that are kind of specific to your countries. It'll cost money to kind of license that, so they've just kind of made up a news corporation to do all the interviewing. But like I mentioned in the previous videos from E3, is you'll have different points at where they're asking questions. So initially when you boot up the career mode, you're met with Claire and your PR agent in a kind of like a coffee kind of table scenario just outside your motorhome, and then you'll get different areas like this where it's in the motorhome, in the paddock, directly in the paddock. You'll also get points where they're going to be asking questions straight after qualifying, perhaps, right in front of the weighbridge, where you'll actually see drivers being animated to kind of walking in the background through the weighbridge area. So different locations, which they've mentioned they want to do. They want to try and expand the paddock as much as they can. And you can clearly see Lee Mather talking about a new art director in a lot of these screenshots. You're able to see just the uplift in the graphic fidelity they brought to the game now from 2017. The faces were okay, but at times they were a little bit poor. The lighting could have been a lot better. Sometimes there were a few little glitches here and there in F1 2017. Here's hoping there aren't as many in F1 2018, but also just generally the baseline without any glitches. You can see the face has got a lot more facial features to them, the details a lot better, and that all kind of matters in terms of because F1 in general has had a tougher time compared to other sports games like FIFA, for example, and it's easy to, I'm going to compare it to FIFA quite a lot of the time because it's easy to make a comparison, but a lot of the times compared to FIFA, the graphic fidelity of it just hasn't been great. Like, especially in the cutscene area, it just hasn't been anywhere near where FIFA has got to. Whereas now, clearly, I think they're really getting to that point where they're equaling FIFA, and if not in some parts, almost kind of going one step a little bit better, because I really do feel like those faces are really great. If we move on to a different screenshot now, this is the new personnel you're going to get for your team called Carl. So he's going to be the kind of main go-to guy in your team now. There's going to be a new location, which we talked about before in the E3 videos, about it's basically a kind of inside the motorhome, I believe, but it's a kind of an array of laptop screens that'll be across, and your team members will be alongside you, and then Carl will be the one that's kind of parading around, giving you the info about the race weekend, giving you new objectives potentially, and also talking about maybe contracts to you. So the new contract system is there for you to vie for contracts and try and chase contracts, and you obviously have that system of showmanship v sportsmanship, which I've talked about, and so Carl might inform you about that. But you can see clearly here, once again, the faces really really looking good. You can just sneak a peek, actually, on the bottom right. If I just try and drag it across, if we try and zoom in, we'll just about be able to see that R&D system tree just at the bottom right. I know a few people are tweeting me about that. You can hardly see much of it, but it's just there in the corner. But that's what I mean. This is the new hub. On the left-hand side, you've got some random printer, I don't know, some desk stuff. On the right-hand side, you've got that other personnel guy, clearly on a PC desktop. So that's what I'm talking about. This new location that's, I believe, would be in your actual motorhome area. So rather than that kind of little cubby hole that was previously on F1 2017, where you got bad news from your engineer, now it's going to be this more expanded area where you're not just getting bad news here, you're kind of chilling out here. This is your main hub from race to race. So those are the screenshots that give you a better idea of the kind of universe, as it were, the kind of paddock area, the kind of stuff that goes alongside the racing, and the stuff that's quite hard to visualize maybe a lot of the time when we're talking about it in terms of info. And then the rest of these screenshots are all going to be about the actual on-track stuff, the actual in-game whilst you're racing. You know, here's the first time we've really seen the 2018 Ferrari in the flesh, in the F1 game, looking pretty damn dope. You can see there clearly from previous gameplay videos, there were a few concerns. Some people kind of going like, the Halo doesn't look like that on the Sauber, etc., etc. It's early work as you go on, obviously, as we see these screenshots clearly, they're now going more towards a bit more of a realistic spec for that Halo and stuff like that. Obviously, you would hope they're going to go for the small, fine details of the Ferrari car, like the special mirrors they've got, which allow air through the car, and then you've got the bargeboard area, which will be more about the Australia spec. You'll notice now at the Canadian Grand Prix onwards, Ferrari have gone for a bit of a different design on the bargeboards, but if you don't know, the way Codemasters have to do it is everything needs to be signed off by the team. Like, the team needs to sign off what their car is going to look like in the game, because ultimately they're the ones that own the rights to the car, and they want it to be represented in the way they want it to. And so the way they have to work around it and kind of work with the teams in that way is they sign off the design around Australia or the first couple of races then, and then they're going to hopefully have a chance to sign off on a new design later on down the season. So what you might see is the cars that launch with the F1 2018 game, maybe hopefully within a month or two, you're going to see a patch maybe that changes the look of the cars, maybe changes some of the sponsors round on livery wise, and also they have actually changed the way sometimes the cars actually physically are in terms of the winglets they've got, the aero packages they've got, for a more updated look, because they'll get a second sign off then. But in the world of Formula 1, as you can imagine, and hopefully in the future it'll get a little bit more relaxed with Liberty Media, but still at the moment there's a lot of red tape that even Codemasters have to work around with. Even though they do the official F1 game, they have to work with all this red tape. So what you're seeing right now at the moment looks great, but it's also early stuff in terms of, like, if you notice something that's different, I would be kind of, you know, just pause it in terms of judging it in terms of, oh, that looks wrong to what it is right now, because it is an earlier version of all these cars. First time we're seeing that papaya orange McLaren then of Stoffel Van Dorn. Really nice scene actually here. You can just about see the Haas and the Renault in the background, but the first time we're seeing the McLaren as well. So far, I believe we've seen the Renault, the Toro Rosso, and the Force India, and the Haas on boards actually from the French Grand Prix. There was some gameplay. If you haven't seen that, by the way, as well, be sure to go check it back on my channel page. And then we've seen, well, we have seen the Ferrari actually, technically, I kind of tell a lie. We've seen gameplay of the Ferrari on board, but we've not seen it off board, so it's kind of hard to tell really what it kind of looked like in terms of the entire array around it. We got a first look at Hockenheim back on the F1 game. Of course, in real life, the German Grand Prix was axed for 2017, so we do not have that. The last time we had Hockenheim was F1 2016. As I said many times before, I'm really looking forward to being back at Hockenheim. I always really enjoyed racing on F1 2016, and with the new, much higher downforce now, the new era of cars, it's going to be really interesting to see how everything's going to react, really, through turn one. The last sector through the stadium is going to be really, really awesome, and obviously that's what we're kind of looking at. You can see a glimpse of the stadium on the right-hand side there, but this is through the kind of last corner then, as we go onto the pit straight. You can see the Sauber following a Red Bull, following a Toro Rosso there, so I don't know what kind of scenario that is. I imagine the Red Bull's made a pit stop, but yeah, lovely look at Hockenheim. And in general, there was a bit of talk about them doing a lot of work on the weather system and the kind of cloud tech, as it were, and I know it's very easy to make fun of them, to say they're talking too much about useless stuff, as it sounds like cloud tech, like who cares about that, but it all makes a difference to actually make the visuals of the entire track a lot better. The way the clouds and the weather is going to, you know, actually be modeled is going to affect how it's portrayed on the track. It's going to be that difference between, okay, it's starting to rain, the way the lighting's bouncing off on the track, the way the clouds are coming over on the circuit, can I tell that it's time to come in for inters, or is it time to fall wet? And that was always, I think, something that I think a lot of us have been critical of F1 2017 2017. I don't know, maybe about all of you, but at least I think I've always found it a little bit confusing in F1 2017 compared to other previous F1 games about when that crossover point is. And I think that was due to maybe them trying to be a bit ambitious with the way the weather could come in quite randomly. And obviously that's a good thing for the weather to be very random. But the way it was visually represented on the track was sometimes a little bit confusing on F1 2017. So here's hoping that's something that I personally think they've fixed, hopefully, for F1 2018. And you can just see generally, again, like what we talked about with the cutscenes, the new art direction and the new kind of hopefully graphic fidelity is hopefully also going to spread to the cars and the track. And I think, I don't know about you guys, but I think Hockenheim's looking pretty damn sweet compared to F1 2016. Obviously a 2-year comparison, but they have clearly stepped up a little bit and they keep on doing it. And I've got to say, it's hard for them, especially in a sport like F1, to really make a difference of how it looks. But I'm always quite impressed that every year they do make a step up of the game looking slightly different, albeit from 2017 to 2018, you're not gonna get a huge difference because it's on the new gen. There's no leap of generation of console, and there's no major overhaul, I guess you could say. But they're still gonna make a few little gains that add all together to make it look a lot better. And so, as I've been talking now, we've been going through a few different screenshots now. There's not really much to comment apart from just the fact that it's kind of showing off the game and the new visuals of it. So, just cycling through, you can obviously always pause it at some point if you want to look a little bit closer at one screenshot in particular. But yeah, this has been a new set of F1 2018 screenshots. Went under the radar a little bit, actually. I only found out after Tom, obviously you guys know from the podcast, and I've done a co-op series with him, Tom97HD. He did a video yesterday, and I was kind of like, oh, where did those come from? Because I completely missed it on Twitter, and a couple of you guys were tweeting me throughout the day yesterday, but I was quite busy. If you didn't know, actually, I'm going to be on the WTF1 podcast that they're doing for the Austrian Grand Prix, so I was busy doing that whilst Tom uploaded his video, so I'll link his video in the description below. But yeah, so these popped out of nowhere, but really good to see that. We could actually see, if we go back to the interviewer, finally you get what I was talking about, because through those E3 videos, as much as you guys enjoy them, which I really appreciate, it was really frustrating for me to be able to talk about the info and the visuals I had seen, but there was no way for me to convey visually what on earth I'd seen. So you just have to take my word of how cool it looked for the interviewer part and the new hub and everything like that. And so now you guys can finally get a look in, and hopefully over the coming weeks we'll be seeing more and more of it in the form of either screenshots or gameplay. But guys, if you have enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you did like what you've seen from F1 2018 from these screenshots, be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're on around here, do subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.